Wife professed to me that she wanted to go through with a divorce, but now has changed her mind. Having trouble understanding why. Wife and I have been married for 22 years, been together for 24. We have 2 children, an 18-year-old son and a 19-year-old daughter. From the start, we both dedicated our life to our children. Neither of us made much, but we still managed to put them through private school. This didn't leave much money, and time for wife and I to go out and have fun of our own. Our children always had sports and tutoring, and other activities that would take up most of our time. There were definitely times when it felt like our lives just felt repetitive and monotonous. We both shared these feelings, and we always said when the kids were gone we would go out to revive our marriage. Now about 6 months ago she starts telling me she isn't so sure we are best suited to be married to each other. She said we both make great parents but not the best husband and wife. I was pretty hurt by her words, but it's futile trying to love someone who doesn't love you back. We agreed that after our son graduates from high school we will go through with a divorce. We talked a good bit about this and when how weren't made for each other. She'd say, you know, I don't think I ever had the hots for you, but you seemed like a loyal, reliable guy. This cut me pretty deep. I am not the most handsome guy in the world, but I am fit, tall, decently muscular. So I was pretty blindsided when she said this. Over time I started feeling less and less for my wife. I stopped thinking of the impending divorce as lamenting the loss or so of my wife, but more so entering a different stage of my life. I had accomplished the goal of having smart, successful children and now I can move on with my life. I didn't feel sad when I left my parents' home to go to college. I was in fact pretty excited. So I brought that fervor and excitement into my own life as moving on to the next stage where I am single. It's odd, even the impending divorce brought me a lot of internal happiness and excitement. I started becoming a more sociable guy. I knew that eventually I'd have to start dating all over again. So I decided to start laying down the groundwork for after I was divorced. During the marriage, much of my identity was around being a father and a family man. I started to change that and became more and more of myself, if that makes sense. I was making more friends, particularly female friends. I didn't really view this as cheating. It was nothing I wouldn't do if my wife was there with me. Things were going pretty well in my social circle. My new changes were getting me a lot of attention from the women there. They are all married. I overheard my wife talking to her good friend about my newfound swagger and charm. Interestingly enough, after my wife told me she didn't have the hots for me, this is when I feel like she started developing the hots for me. For most of our marriage I had to be the one to initiate sex. Wife thought it was the man's job. Well, after she told me she didn't have the hots for me, it was a blow to my confidence, so I stopped initiating sex by a good bit. This is when my wife started to develop a sexual aggressiveness that I have never seen before. Before we would have sex 3 times a week. Now we are going at it like 10 times in a week. There are times when both my children are up and awake and my wife would grab my hand and pull me away to the bedroom. She has recently told me that she doesn't want to go through with a divorce anymore and would like to work on our marriage. I don't know why, but I am upset hearing this. Although we don't have any problems going on in our marriage, I was honestly looking forward to the divorce. As sleazy as this sounds, I was looking forward to sleeping around. I had a couple of girls practically lined up. The other thing I find strange is how my wife's feelings changed. There was a time a while back where I suspected she might be having an affair. I caught her in a lie about a gift from a coworker. One of my theories is she was having an affair. She wanted to go through with a divorce so she could get together with him. Their relationship soon fizzled out, so she now is rethinking divorce. However, besides that one lie, she hasn't done anything really to make me believe she was having an affair. I know one thing, that if she was to have an affair, my wife would know how to cover her tracks. Another thing is I am really confused about her attitude towards me and sex. She told me before she didn't have the hots for me. Now she can't keep her hands off me. Did she say it and then felt bad, so she is trying to make up for it? But if that was the case, why is our frequency of sex still so high? Does she have the hots for me now? If so, what is the cause of that? I haven't gotten physically any better, lost weight or anything. I haven't gotten a promotion. I have been happier, but that's it. But that is mainly towards other people. My attitude towards her has probably gotten worse. I'd say I became more aloof, a bit more sarcastic and teasing. There are a lot of things going on that I don't understand. I am really looking for some outside perspective. As of now, I do want to go to divorce, so there might be a bias in the way I am presenting information. My husband wants a divorce, but I don't. To make a long story short, I fucked up. Big time. I have been with my partner for 6 years, 3 of them married. I never once felt the need to seek out other men or even cared to even interact with anyone else until this past year. My parents divorced about 2 years ago and I haven't talked to my father since. He is a very narcissistic and manipulative person and I am scared that as I am getting older, I am picking up on his habits. I don't want to be like him at all. But recently this past year something in me changed. I thought it may have been my birth control and the hormones. So I stopped taking it, but it's almost like it got worse. At the beginning of this year, I confessed to having a crush on a coworker to my husband. But I didn't have any attraction to the person. It was more of an attraction to the attention I was getting that I felt like I lacked from my husband. Several months later, I began talking to another guy behind my husband's back. For me, it was just a friendship. I was seeking out advice and attention in all the wrong places. This person and I never developed a relationship and I never had any feelings for them. But I got so captivated in the high of sneaking around and talking to this person that I began lying to my husband even more. Deep down, I wanted to stop. I wanted to cut this friendship off and focus on my marriage. But I couldn't until I was caught, which eventually I was one night when I lied to my husband and went to this person's house. It's like I knew I would get caught eventually, and I wanted to. But at the same time I wasn't ready to change. I liked the feeling of freedom. On top of this, I began to hang out with a group of girls that were single, liked to party, liked to have fun. Not to mention, I got married at 17, so it's like I felt like I needed to make up for my youth and see what I was missing out on. So I began to put these friends in front of my marriage and devote my time to them instead of my husband. Which was another huge mistake that I failed to realize at the time cause I was so caught up in myself and in the high of independence. Then recently, an old acquaintance from high school reached out to one of my girlfriends and asked for my number. I agreed to let him have it, not thinking anything would come from it. I began talking to this person pretty frequently and agreed to meet up for lunch once. Then shortly after agreed to hang out with him twice. I made it clear to him that I was married and seek nothing more than friendship and advice. But still for some reason I continued to talk to him knowing my husband wouldn't like it and that I needed to go home and water my grass instead of devoting my attention elsewhere. Eventually, I was caught again. I invited this person over to my mom's while she was out of town and I was dog sitting for her. For the record, I have never once physically cheated on my husband or even considered it. Some may say I had an emotional affair, but it was never anything more. I love my husband. I really do. He is my best friend and I wish I knew why I did this to him. It's almost like I was watching over myself and had no control. I want to fix myself. I want to change. I want to fix my marriage. I have already lost all contact with this other guy. I do not have contact with any other men. I have distanced myself from my friends and explained to them I need to focus on my marriage and fix it. My husband hates me, which he has every right to. He wants a divorce, but I don't. I want to win his love back and be the person he fell in love with again. I am receiving religious and medical help now, trying to figure out this problem I have within myself. I do not want to wake up one day and be served with divorce papers. I don't know how to keep my husband from divorcing me. He deserves better and I want to be that better for him. I understand it is going to take time for the trust to even be considered, but I am willing to do whatever it takes.